Hello dear listeners, welcome back to my channel. My name is Selena, I'm a clinical psychologist. Let's get right into it. Okay, so there are a few things that I would want to say here. And it actually reminds me of something that I have once experienced, and it was quite infuriating. I have done different jobs in my life, and I have had a lot of different colleagues as well. And this one person that I was talking with, who was sharing some of their own experiences and also of having been together with girls that had BPD, he was putting them into the crazy girl category. And he was telling me about how he recognizes how people are crazy or they have borderline. Even telling this infuriates me because I think it is so incredibly dismissive of the struggle that a person is going through. And there's a certain level of arrogance or intellectual superiority. They feel like they can see it in someone else's eyes when they have BPD. And he was looking at my eyes and telling me, oh, you don't have BPD. And I was like, why do you think that? And he said that they just have a very particular way that they look. There's just this crazy stare. But I'm wondering, because sometimes when we are angry or when we're feeling a certain emotion, it can reflect in the way the pupil shows itself. So it can reflect in the pupil size. I know that some people claim that when you think about someone that you love, that your pupils will expand. But because of muscle tension, I know that it has an effect on pupil size. I would have to see more literature on it, but I have definitely seen some personal anecdotes until now that it is a thing.
You should believe that.
Everyone looks at me like I'm a monster.
Yeah, I really like this TikTok, and of course, it's a very personal summary and list of triggers. Canceling plans is a huge one because persons with BPD, they can interpret them as abandonment or rejection. They can very quickly start thinking, oh, do they not want to see me anymore? Maybe they're meeting up, but they don't want me in the group. Someone raising their voice or screaming at them is definitely a huge trigger. And it is not only a trigger because of the meaning that that action conveys, which is that someone is worthless, that they're not worthy of being respected, but also because of the actual memories that can come up when someone is screaming at them. And that is more so a post-traumatic way to understand it, because a person with BPD, they have a higher likelihood of having childhood trauma or neglect or mistreatment. And a common experience is that they were screamed at or that someone raised their voice. So quite quickly it can take them back to that moment in which it actually happened, and that will be very triggering for them. Yeah, and it's really sad to see. What this person is describing is understood by some people as quiet BPD. And what these people mean is that they will turn their disorder inward in a way, so they will experience a lot internally that they might not show to the outside world. And it can be a really difficult situation for that person because obviously they're struggling, but they can't give people around them the signals that they're actually struggling because they're afraid that they will overreact or that they will hurt the other person. And that is one of the saddest things about this disorder, is that there is so much shame and guilt connected to it as well. Because in my experience, people with BPD are usually incredibly kind, incredibly thoughtful and sensitive. And when they are feeling very angry or upset or sad, the behaviors that they're engaging in, they feel quite out of control for them, and usually afterwards, quite soon afterwards, they will experience immense shame for what they have done. And I can imagine that this person here has resorted to keeping it to themselves because they're just so afraid of affecting the people around them.
I love you.
Love you too.
You know what? I'm done.
What?
You don't have to say it back if you don't mean it.
I do
Honestly,
mean it.
like, I don't even know why I'm in this relationship. I love you.
Love you too.
Did they hesitate and say the whole thing? What if they don't mean it? They're gonna break up with me. Why would they do this? They're just gonna hurt me. We should just break up if they don't actually mean it.
You know what?
Okay, this is quite an interesting one. From one moment to the other, someone's mood and attitude can change completely. So in this case, it would be positive and loving to critical and hostile maybe in the next moment. What might have happened is that that other person that hypothetical person maybe moved their face a bit differently than usual. There was just something about their expression that this person with BPD then interpreted as them being dishonest, faking, lying. And why that is happening is because BPD usually develops from childhood trauma. And a person with BPD needed to be very sensitive to these cues and the environment around them. Usually persons with BPD, they grow up with parents that are really unstable themselves, maybe physically or emotionally abused. So it means that they needed to have a really strong ability to sense someone else's emotions and mood. And this, unfortunately, can lead to wrong interpretations of someone else's mood. And within a second, basically these fears are coming up. Their amygdala, their emotional part of the brain basically, is overactive and they're feeling all of these emotions. They're basically being rushed with this fear and this anger. Okay, so of course this is a very individual experience of BPD, and I can understand that it feels like that to this person. So being constantly on edge or being constantly on the lookout, at least unconsciously, for a danger in the environment, that can be very tiring and taxing. And what adds to that is that a lot of persons with BPD have comorbid disorders, which are coexisting disorders that in a way have an overlap. Comorbid disorders for BPD can be depression, for example, so a major depressive episode, let's say, or anxiety disorders as well. In my experience with clients and from what I have heard, usually people even prefer physical pain, and that's sometimes the reason why they will also self-harm or they will inflict some kind of pain to themselves, because it in a way distracts from the emotional pain that they're experiencing. So since that emotional pain is so unbearable, they would rather harm themselves to in a way come to the present and focus on that physical pain, to temporarily be taken away from the emotional pain. Let me quickly see, I forgot what the third part was. This is definitely a very common symptom of BPD. It's at the core of BPD, which is the emotional instability again, and usually quite strong fear and rage and sadness. Yeah, I think this is definitely true. So to the first point where it was said that a person will go in and out of relationships very quickly, there are a few components why that is the case. The first one would be that a person with BPD has a tendency to idolize but also villainize a person, and they will be focused on with all the attention that the person who's struggling with BPD has. Basically, when they perceive that the other person has done something wrong, or when they have actually done something wrong or abandoned them, then they will very quickly shift into the category of people who are bad or who you should stay away from. And quite often people with BPD, they will be stuck in a cycle where the people that they will get together with or that they will feel attracted to can be quite similar to the behaviors that their own parents or attachment figures engaged in. Quite often it can lead to quite toxic relationships, to situations in which they are getting even further, which in a way them. And that is one of the reasons why people go in and out of relationships quite quickly. And the other one is that people with BPD, they will usually have quite a difficult time just being by themselves or not being in a relationship, because again, they're looking for that validation and for that connection so desperately, like everyone does, but especially a person with BPD, since they have quite a lack of that from their past.
Soda pop, baby, here I come, straight to number one. Oh, dear diary, I met a boy, he made my dog heart tied up with joy. Oh, dear diary, we fell apart. Welcome to the life of Electra Heart. Shut up.
Interesting. So this person has tried medication for their BPD. I'm curious what they are taking. There are a few options. So some people take mood stabilizers like lithium, and others take serotonin reuptake inhibitors like Prozac. So there's like a variety of things that people get when they're struggling with BPD. But the thing with BPD is that it doesn't have a cure, a pharmaceutical cure in a way. So you can treat certain symptoms that come with it, or comorbid disorders again, like a depression. And for that, serotonin reuptake inhibitors, of course, are like a very standard approach. But how we really treat the root of it is through other modalities. So you can tackle the root cause, which is the trauma, and there are different types of trauma treatments. And DBT, which is dialectical behavioral therapy, can also be used for borderline, and that is quite a standard approach in which basically a person will learn not to immediately act on the impulsive reaction or the impulsive behavior that comes up, but where they will understand that they can actually be differentiated, see that they're experiencing an emotion, that it makes them feel a certain way, and where they become more mindful of what is going on, basically. Alright everyone, it was definitely very interesting to go through these TikToks and share my opinion and my insight. I'm very interested in continuing this series, so let me know what you thought about it. If I should do some more borderline TikToks, or maybe something like narcissistic personality disorder, any other subject that you're interested in. So let me know down in the comments. Otherwise, I hope you found this interesting or insightful. If you did so, then please leave a like and subscribe to my channel. It definitely helps me out a lot, and it ensures that other people can see this type of content to inform themselves on mental health and psychology. And otherwise, I will see you in the next one. Take care.